Okay, so we are going to start talking about dot plots. You should be familiar with dot plots from the 5th grade. Dot plots have our dots and they have numbers at the bottom. So the first thing we're going to talk about is our distribution. So that means when my dots, I start at the top, the biggest point, and I go towards the bottom. So it's kind of like a roller coaster. You start at the top and then we're going to go down. So our arrow follows this direction. This is pointing to the right. So this dot plot has a distribution to the right. Okay, so if we looked at the next one, we start at the top and we always go down. So this one's not perfect, it kind of goes, but it is going in this general direction. So if it's going this way, it has a distribution to the left. Okay, and then if we look at this bottom one, it's completely different from both of these. My point is in the middle. So it is going this direction. It is also going in this direction. So it's pretty perfect under there. So if we look, we call this a symmetrical distribution. Because symmetry means that it's the same on both sides. So if it's the same, it is symmetrical. So you start at the top, go down to the bottom. So this is right, goes to the left, and if it's perfect on both sides, it's symmetrical. All right, let's go to the inside. Okay, when we are making a dot plot, because sometimes we have to build them ourselves, we can use dots. That's why it's called a dot plot. Or we can use X's. So we can see either dots or X's being used, okay? The next thing we need to pay attention to is we have to put our numbers in order from least to greatest. That is with every type of graph that we ever use. We have to put our numbers in order from least to greatest. And with a dot plot, the last thing we need to pay attention to is our data, our numbers, get put on a number line. We have to put those numbers on a number line. So with all that information, we are going to make our dot plot. So it says use the following list of numbers to make a dot plot. So these are our numbers. This is what we call our data set. Our data set is just our numbers. Okay, I have 2, all these 3s, 5s, and 6s. So I need to take these numbers and put them on this dot plot. Again, we can use dots or X's. I'm going to use dots. So if I have a 2, I'm going to go to my 2 and I'm going to put 1 dot. That represents that 2. Okay, so now I don't have any more 2s. I'm moving on to 3. So I need to go to my 3 and put a dot. That represents 1 3. I still have another one. So I need to put another dot on 3. I have another one, and 1 more. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 3s. So on my 3, I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of these dots represent my 3. Okay. I do not have any 4s, so no dots go there. I need to move on to 5. So I have a 5 and another 5. Okay, and that's all I have. And then we lastly have some 6s. I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these dots all represent that 6. Okay, so now we are going to answer these questions below. It says, what is the minimum value? We know minimum means smallest. So it wants to know what my smallest number is. And if I look, my smallest number is 2. And then it wants to know the maximum. We know maximum is the largest, the biggest. So what is my biggest number? It is 6. Okay, and then it wants to know what is my mode or peak. So which number has the most? So if I'm looking at my dots, which number has the most in it? My 3 has the most. So my mode is 3. Remember, mode means most. And then lastly, I have my range. And we already know from previously that range is my big number minus my small number. So my biggest number is 6. My smallest is 2. And 6 minus 2 is 4. So that would be my range. Okay, let's flip over to the last side. So now this time I have a dot plot and we're gonna go backwards. So if it says let's analyze, I need to write my numbers from least to greatest. So this dot represents a 0. So I have 1 0. That's this dot. Okay. Then I have a 1. I have another 1 and another 1. Okay. Next I have a 2, a 2, 2, 2, and 2. I do not have any 3s or 4s. And then lastly, I have 1 5. So those are my numbers in order from least to greatest. So now that I have my list and my dot plot, I can answer my questions. So it says, where are the numbers clustered? Okay, so that is the same thing as saying which side are most of my numbers on? Are they on this right side or the left side? So most of my numbers are over here. So looking at this number line, this is going to be, they are all mostly on the left side. So if it asks about clusters, it wants to know which side are they on. Okay, where is the peak? Peak, just like we talked about on the other page, is the mode. And the mode means most. Which number has the most? So if I look, I have more 2s than anything. So my mode is 2. Okay, is there a gap in the data? So from across my number line, is there any holes? So here there's not, but here I don't have any dots. So there is a hole. A gap is the same thing as a hole. So is there a gap? Yes. And then it says, is this data symmetrical? And remember, symmetrical had to be perfect. Okay, so if I start here, it goes straight down. On this one, it's a little bit this direction. Okay, so it's not quite perfect under there. And remember, I have this gap here, so that's not quite right. So this would be skewed to the right. Skewed right. Okay, so just as a refresher, reminder, when we have dot plots, we have to write our numbers, order from least to greatest. We have to have that list. Peak is mode, mode is most. Okay, we have to put our numbers on that number line, and we can use dots or X's.